while we were there. She was reading your little devotional from today, and she wanted to tell you that she really appreciated it. Now, I didn't appreciate it at all, but.
So, welcome back, everyone, to an almost perfect Christian podcast. That's our full name, Lizzie. When we get in trouble, that's what they say. An almost perfect Christian podcast. Otherwise, we just call ourselves almost perfect. And if we're feeling really good, we just say perfect. But very rarely do we do that.
That has not been used yet.
Not yet. Not by anybody. Right. Yeah.
That's the closest.
Yeah. And I'm John. I'm here with Tom. Tom, you're back with the fish. Hope they didn't
not swimming with the fish.
Not swimming with the fishes, right? You're podcasting in front of them. That's a whole thing you never thought you'd be able to say about yourself, right? You want to be podcasting with the fishes, huh?
Nice try.
And we are back with Lizzie. Lizzie, this is 2 weeks in a row. I don't know why. I guess God is merciful. You would be willing to come back twice. You've been here. This will be your third time now, but 2 times in a row. So glutton for punishment. I don't know however you say that, but Lizzie's back with us. Lizzie, how the hallelujah are you?
Oh, I'm good. I mean, I wonder how the viewers and listeners will feel about 2 weeks in a row and how much grace is involved in that. But no, I'm great. I'm great. We're getting ready for a big fundraiser next month with my work, and there's some really exciting things coming up related to that. So I'm good.
Yeah, tell everybody real quickly about your fundraiser.
So we do an annual kind of like celebration dinner, not quite fancy enough to be a gala. We call it homecoming because that's the work that we're in at Justice for Our Neighbors.
Gala?
No, an almost perfect, not quite gala. Yeah. So we call it homecoming as an event. It gives it a theme. You know, there are pom-poms on the table and stuff, but also because that's what we say we're in the business of with Justice for Our Neighbors, is working on homecomings for people. And so we, have a big, like a wedding venue type place, and we have a dinner, and we're going to have this year, as part of the content, a former client who also is a former board member and who is just an amazing person, is going to be performing along with her sister, kind of like a live one-act play. And they've written 2 of them before and put them in a festival that I've attended and have just been blown away both times. The facility they have of sharing the immigrant experience with humor, but also taking you to deep places, and that it's just really profound, and there's nothing like it. It's different from even like hearing just someone share their story kind of front to end, getting these little vignettes from the play they do. So we're really excited they're going to do a performance as part of the content of the night.
Excellent. Good deal. Sounds good. Tom, what are you working on now?
I'm working on a book. I was talking to the Hook's general manager about getting him as those little blurbs that authors get at the beginning of their books, the amazing thing is we were the Hooks were the worst team in all of minor league baseball last year. They lost more than anybody, and I said back in September when we were winding up last year's season, we're going to be the Texas League champions next year. And Brady said, "Why do you think that?" And we're one. I don't know if we're still 1 game out or 2 games out of first place, but I know one thing: we are really, really close, and nobody imagined us even halfway through the season, because we ended up tied for last place in the first half of the division. So they're a good team, and they're at home this week, and so I'll be getting ready to go to a ball game after we're done.
Go Hooks. All right. Somebody sent me a picture from the game last night, so I felt like I was there with you, Tom, in my usual spot in the Cotton Club. My usual. I go there once a year. Yeah, somebody sneaks me in once a year to the Cotton Club,
I need to talk to Tom about...
Huh?
I was gonna say I need to talk to Tom about getting any insight or something I can get. I really want to move our extension ministry luncheon for pastors instead of it being we've done a breakfast. We've talked about doing a dinner instead too. I would really love to just be out at a Hooks game together with the extension ministers as our kind of socializing time, but
Yeah. It's
we'll see.
always a good time with the hooks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right,
But
I got religious news for you.
yeah, okay, great.
Let me pull it up real quick. Religious news. In religious news of the day, there is a new statue in the world, and where is it at? It is in, oh man, I can't. An enormous statue of the Virgin Mary that is believed to be Europe's tallest statue was inaugurated on Saturday in a small Polish village. And the presence, and see, this is probably I didn't want to mess up the guy's name. Anti-communist leader Lech Wałęsa, let's say. Anyway, it's a statue of Mary that is over 182 feet high, which
Oh,
is larger than the statue of the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And this came out, they had a big inauguration 2 days ago. So this is almost like, I mean, this is about as up to date as we get around here. 2 days ago, that's pretty good, right? So there's a huge statue of Mary, very impressive, in a in a town of a village of about 150 people. That's where this just went up. And so, of course, hoping that to be a place of pilgrimage and place to people will go and whatever. It made me think of the cross in Corpus Christi. How's that working, Tom? Are you privy to any of that?
I'm not even. No, I'm not even aware. I guess I've kind of heard about that. That maybe it's like the bridge being built by 2018. That.
Yeah, I remember those promises. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It did open. By the way, it did for those who uh, haven't been here for a while. It actually did open a year ago. So we have our new bridge. It was due in 2018. Only 7 years later.
Can you
7 years.
imagine if the first GMC statue of Jesus was 180 feet tall, though? Like, oh my gosh. I mean, for one thing, that'd be awkward where it is, just like isolated. But imagine a town of 180 or however I'm getting the numbers mixed up. It might have been taller than 180, but man, that is tall.
Yeah,
I'm just
182 feet in a town of 150 people. So everybody gets a foot. That's my
And
foot.
it,
that
Um,
everybody's like, doing a small little like graffito on it or whatever, right? Like
yeah.
Lizzie was here on this foot, and then it just gets more complicated to get to
Uh,
the foot 182 and who gets to sign that one.
there is a taller statue of the Virgin Mary in the Philippines, which measures 98 meters, which you do the math. But this new one in Poland is believed to be the largest of its kind in Europe. Um, it comes with where's it at? Where's that? It comes with on the base, you can walk around, you can see everything, and yeah. Anyway, um, really nice. Looks like it's just pretty cool, I guess. 182 feet. All right. In other religious news, a woman is resurrected and then given a parking ticket. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Resuscitated. Same difference, I guess. This is out of New Zealand, so we are international today, Tom. We're all about international news. Let's see. There's an Auckland woman. Let's see, 54-year-old collapsed in the car park, I guess the parking lot of the New World supermarket on Auckland's Hibiscus Coast in July. Her father told the news organization that staff were quick to provide assistance and privacy, or would this be privacy in New England? I mean, New Zealand. Is it privacy or privacy?
Probably
Yeah,
privacy.
privacy. Yeah. I've been watching, what's it called? Peaky Blinders.
Although, yeah, New Zealanders, Kiwis are gonna have like an extra twist on it. It'll be like
Yeah.
privacy or something. Who knows? Like,
And they'll change it tomorrow because that's what they can do. That's what they
Hmm.
want to do. Anyway, provide assistance and privacy screens, but it was a stranger who immediately took control and performed chest compressions when she could not find a pulse. So all the people were trying to help, staff not working. Some stranger comes out of nowhere, performs chest compressions. The stranger just melted away once my daughter had regained a pulse, and St. John ambulance arrived on the scene before anyone could thank her. The woman's actions were truly remarkable. Now, his daughter was then taken to North Shore Hospital by ambulance and her car. Oh, and her car, which was allowed to remain in the car park for 90 minutes, wasn't removed for 5.5 hours. Then the woman received an $80 breach notice from Smart Compliance Management a few days after her resurrection. And I don't usually call out the company's name, but I'm a dude for this time. One, because none of us are going to New Zealand probably, but come on, man. The lady was in the hospital. Now they did, I don't know if this is better or not. After the circumstances were explained, the fine wasn't waived, but it was reduced to $30.
That
Which is worse? You're
that is so
laughing, Lizzie. Which is worse? Come on.
that is worse. That is worse. Like I'd almost say like you either say no, sorry, it's got to get paid, or you waive it, but you don't go, "Oh, I see. That's really hard." 30. Like like
It's a
that is worse to
resurrection
me.
discount.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I was gonna
gosh.
say, oh, we didn't know that. We're sorry, but we'll give you. It's still we.
$30.
You should not be basically dying on our parking lot.
Yes. Keep your dying to
Yeah.
yourself.
You
Yeah,
need to all be making a plan ahead of time. Should you pass out anywhere, who is responsible for coming to get your car in a 90-minute timeline?
That's
Just
right.
have that person on hand. That's a important emergency contact is go take care of my car.
You know, the things you wear to alert people you're in trouble, that should be the second one you wear. Go get my car.
Yeah.
I don't need a ticket. I don't need a $30 ticket.
Then after that, it says, make sure my dog's okay. If it's like, like go to my house and let my dog out or whatever, right? But first, make sure I don't get a ticket.
Make sure I don't get a parking ticket. Yeah. Oh well.
so
Okay.
well, and I will say, one of the people we met up with in Wichita is the father of our development coach for the Hooks, and Jim and I met in Springfield when Ella and I went up for an away game, and within a half an hour of me saying goodbye to him, he had a cardiac arrest, and there was a so Thursday night they had come into Wichita, he and his wife Joan, and we after the game, because the first time we saw him was actually at the game, and then we were all staying at the same hotel, and we're sitting in the lobby, and he's recounting that experience, and one of the things that Joan kept saying, is, oh, it was a God thing, or God was definitely in it, and because of the timing, the simple fact that he went to the bathroom saved his life, because he he was coming out of the bathroom, so he wasn't already in his car when he had his cardiac arrest,
mm,
because he was because of that, he just basically, they were talking, and then he was flat on his back, just uh, from that point on. Joan has to tell the rest of the story, so that happened, and then the police officer had already gone to his car, but then he realized he still had the uh, the stadium walkie-talkie, so he's coming back, and when that happened, and he immediately
Mm.
started compressions on Jim. And anyway, that, I mean, there was a number of things. That's only the second of about four things that happened. And afterward, Jim, was told by his cardiologist, is, you were so lucky,
Mm.
and not, only 10% of the people who have what you had survived the event. So, one in 10. But anyway, it was this whole thing reminds me of that story. And the truth of the matter is, Ella and I kind of scratch our heads because we are really, really good friends with Jim, but have no idea if he had not had the cardiac arrest and then the next day texted me saying, oh, by the way, I'm in the hospital. If we would, it's like once you have that connection, you go, this is a little bit deeper than just, it was nice knowing you for two
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. He trauma bonded. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, last week, we were talking. I don't remember exactly what we were talking about because that was last week. Story of my life. But we got to a point, when Lizzie was talking, she mentioned something that just really kind of amened in me. She made just a simple comment about something related to the idea of congregational care, with versus over and against, however you want to frame that to get us going, the idea of pastoral care and how those two, that's what we were talking about. Maybe, last week we're talking about how sometimes, this idea that the pastor maybe does too much and has too much of a role in the life of the congregation in a way that doesn't always allow the church to, right, to maybe live into their calling. And so within that, this idea of what it means for congregational care. So Lizzie, since this all kind of came from something you said, I'll give you a chance to kind of get us going into the direction on a scale of, 1 to 182-foot tall statue of Mary. Where have we maybe overemphasized the role of pastor in this whole conversation of pastoral care and or congregational care?
I think most congregations put it at whichever end is extremely pastor on that. So I guess the one, I don't know, the short end of a statue. I think most congregations really, and I think a lot of individuals, um, specifically, if we also, just thinking of each person, there are people who really place a ton of responsibility and expectation. And I mean, responsibility isn't even the word. I think there's something, I mean, this isn't quite the question you asked, but like there's something theologically up with the idea that the pastor is the only person who can say the words, who can pray with you, who can, that matters. And I mean, I experienced that when I interned on a multi-pastor staff. People would get visits from all of the pastors if they were in the hospital for a longer time. And different pastors traded out, also doing visits to people who are in their homes. Um, but it matters for the senior pastor to come in some places, right? Like, so it's not even just that you need a pastor. It's like it's supposed to be the senior pastor, or even congregations where there is a person, a pastor who's assigned the role of pastoral care. Um, there are some people who are like, but the senior pastor should visit me, right? And what's that about? Like, that's not about healing, and that's not about that. Like, that's about status and um but also sometimes just generally the just if we talk about every church I served, was, well, I guess I was an associate at a small church, but every church I served solo is just me as pastor. So there's not someone else special. There's not a senior to go to, but the pastor visiting is still, I know I felt a lot of pressure. And I saw this in my parents too sometimes. There are people who also are kind of like, I thought about how, what if I miss a call, you know, from
Sure.
somebody and I don't make it to the hospital in time. But I still think that's like that's just misaligning an understanding of who the pastor is, what role they have to believe. Like it's one thing for there to be the pastor there for comfort, for confidentiality, for spiritual, um, kind of like, I mean, not spiritual direction the way we talk about that and like a broader long-term thing, but like guiding you in the sense of like this
In
deep
that moment.
moment.
Yeah.
But people will act like the pastor needs to get there in time to pray because the pastor's prayer. And also, how come prayer at that point matters to be right there versus me praying wherever I am, even if I am special at praying. But the heart of it to me, to answer a non-question, is the role of the pastor is to equip the saints for the ministry of the church. not to do the ministry of the church. And that is care for one another is included in that. Care for one another is something that in Acts everyone did together. That was shared in common, right? And there's a lot more I can say about that. But the rootedness of it for me, if I were to make an argument, is it's not about there's too many people for me to get to. It's not even just I don't have special words or magical powers that get to God faster or stronger than you for healing in an emergency situation. It's really rooted in there are people with gifts for care who are not having that encouraged and, developed and shared in the context of life together. If we're all thinking the pastor's the one who does it, there are people who are meant to be, whose role and gifts are to be caring in many different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so not even just hospital visits kind of care for one another. But that's kind of the root of it for me is and I think that's how it ties to last week with I think pastors often do the ministry of the church instead of equipping the saints for the ministry of the church.
You jumped right into it. My second page of my notes, I had a question here
Sorry.
is no, 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 this is wonderful. Is I want my pastor more about validation than care.
Mm,
And that goes to your point about, status. If the pastor comes and sees me, then, I must be important or whatnot. Tom, how does some of this so far kind of fit in your experience?
Well, let's go with the validation part because there is something to certain people carry a little bit more weight. Their presence, their care, or their notice that hey, she noticed me, and it's not restricted to the church. It's if if the head coach actually knows my name, if it's the person, the mayor, they're just people of authority that if they actually notice you, and I was just talking about something earlier, the general manager, and he Brady's a really great guy, but there's a moment kind of early on that you respect the position, and if they even know who you are, you're pleasantly surprised. And I don't want to downplay that role within the context of the church and the pastor. That's significant. Uh, but on the other hand, there's just simply the reality that the people who actually know you and actually know your situation, and when they show up, that's that is the ministry of the church. The other is something that's outside of what our belief is. The belief is that every human value has the same or every human soul has the same value in the eyes of God. We're the ones who have the hierarchy in our mind,
Sure.
and we know that sense of hierarchy is flipped upside down in the kingdom of God when Jesus says, "If you want to be great, be servant." Uh, you know, Park your car at the far end of the parking lot instead of having a special sign that says you park here. And that's the
You
value.
might get ticketed for that, Tom. I don't
Yeah, don't overstay it.
don't
Make sure you have,
overstay.
yeah. But anyway, but that's the kingdom of God's principle is that you are gifted. You have a place within the kingdom and within the church, within the body of Christ, and your place made well more than likely isn't going to be pastor, but you have been gifted with a powerful gift of praying for people. You have been gifted with a powerful gift of being present and people sensing calm. You bring peace. You bring comfort. And you don't have a title. And so that kind of plays back to what Lizzie was saying. That sense of sometimes as a pastor and in our congregational thinking, we don't allow the people God has given us as a church to be the gift they are,
Yeah.
and so that that's I think all of us are saying, let's wake up, church, and realize it is more about what God is doing than what the pastor is doing.
So is that sort of kind of a pastor mindset, or is that the culture of the church? Like which, like how do how do you
Both.
weave through that to
I,
get to a point where we can kind of actualize what both of you are saying? How do you kind of go through the movement of those, the culture of the way church is? That's we pay the pastor for that, right? And then even pastors just assuming whether they've been told that or whether they just that's my job, and they
yeah.
sort of take hold of it. How do you sort of navigate through that to get to a better sense of what it should be?
Let me say the clearest thing that are the most significant thing we can do as pastors is be willing for people to call us lazy when we're
Mm.
actually doing the very work that we're doing.
Unpack that. What does
That
that mean?
well, if we are going to allow people to grow into their gifts, that means at times, a lot of times, that we bring a person forward when everybody's expecting us, and allow that person, and to do it so often and so consistently that eventually people begin to see, oh, it's not about the pastor, it's about the church, and it's about Christ in the church and allowing people to grow into it. But to get there, you have to be very clear. This is where I'm going because I see it in the scriptures. I see it in my own calling. I see it in in what God has done in the past, God is currently doing, and God will do. And I need to stay the course, and be willing to take the small steps to make a big difference within the life of the church. But it's going to cost us to do that, because that's a culture change and a mindset change that somebody somewhere has to begin and be willing to walk it all the way through.
I think here's a great example of like the contrast between the roles. The person who is upset and calling up the pastor lazy, or just saying they're not fulfilling their role, they're not, whatever it may be, they're neglecting people, maybe even if people are being cared for in comprehensive ways. But I think that's a common one, right? The difference is, and I'm not saying there's no room to ever equip a saint for this ministry themselves, but I would say, like, so now it is for sure the pastor's job to have a conversation, to set up something, to go, tell me more about why this is bothering you in this way. Tell me more about why it doesn't count. Tell me more about why this looks like neglect, and have that conversation to learn more about where that's coming from for somebody. That is the job for sure of the pastor, to find out and help shape then the understanding of where is this falling in their spirituality, where is this falling in their understanding of God, their relationship to God, their relationship to pastor, right? But and then hopefully that can also be the beginning of some conversation about why it's such a gift to share the other stuff, right? Like the actual caring for one another part. It wouldn't be possible for the pastor to do all the caring that's really needed, and I think we're seeing that play out in churches that expect it. It there's, well, and I have a lot to say about kind of even whatever. I just won't get to that right now, but I do want to jump to say, like, something that Tom said earlier, and in relation to what I was saying to start with about like having a misunderstanding of who the pastor is, placing that too high, making us too special, too magic or something. I do think I want to say I do take seriously though the pastor plays a role of ambassador that is kind of like a representative for the church, and for many people, yes, it is also like a representative of God. The same way that when I've done trainings for children's ministry, I'm reminding Sunday school teachers like the way kids' minds work is you are grown up, you are in charge, you are parallel to God being the grown up in the sky who is in charge of all the things, right? And so the way you behave with a child reflects to them, to their understanding of their relationship with God, which is why we work hard to not raise our voices in particular ways, call kids out in a particular way that's going to be harmful for their understanding of their relationship to God the rest of their lives. I do think that the pastor plays an ambassador type role or a representative role that does have significance. So it's not about giving up all care to altogether, but that's also in an itinerant system why when there's congregational care happening, you then have the particular gifts of the pastor coming in that fit into that framework. And they get to shine in that particular way because we aren't actually all things to all people. And I think that's another stumbling block. And I will say that's something that has caused me to do the wrong thing and make big mistakes as a pastor. But I also think not everybody has a great relationship with the pastor. That's a whole other layer. But
Mm,
I'm just saying the pastor, there for some people, they are shocked because they think, I didn't know you knew my name. Even in a small congregation where you're like, oh, I know everyone's name. I got half your addresses down and I know your dog's name too, if I can remember it. But so some people are shocked about that. But imagine too, I mean, not just Tom mentioned the people who you actually interact with in church, you know, coming to you matters. But I still think it matters when it's like a lady you've never had a conversation with, but
sure.
she's the one bringing the prayer blanket that got quilted for you by five other ladies you've never met. But when they heard that this was going on in your life, they particularly prayed over this quilt together or this knitted prayer shawl and are bringing it to you. That also shocks people to know there's someone caring for them like that, that the network of faith is bigger than they've even experienced so far. That is a huge experience to go through for people at times. And we're getting in the way of that. If we as the pastor or the congregation is stuck in that thinking of it's really the pastor's job to be visiting people. It's really the pastor's job. I mean, I think people know the pastor doesn't have to be the one showing up with a casserole, but like it's so pastor driven a lot of the time, and there is this layer of expectation that, oh gosh, it's just hindering such beautiful experiences of God's grace and care, and how expansive it really is the way we are connected to one another. Sorry, I did a lot of things there.
No, that's good
But
because also what I like to remind people of, or whichever one of you mentioned, in our particular context, being itinerant the way we are, I mean, if you're going to build this on me, I mean, I'm probably gone in a couple years. Then what, right? And
then then
and if I could,
then then you leave because there's a new pastor and
yeah, and then
Right.
you rewatch that episode and we start all over again. Yeah, yeah. And so, having that sense embedded in who we are as a congregation that that is able to partner, work with, be in ministry with whatever pastor comes in, that is more sustaining. And plus, again, if it's just me, I'm in and out of these people's lives for a couple years. They're with you for as long as you all are a part of the church. And to me, that has a pretty significant meaning and connection to someone's faith. So yeah, and for us as pastors, as clergy people to sort of inadvertently or not, to take that away, yeah, it's kind of yeah, we need to think on that more as congregation and as leaders. So let me ask you, Tom, if
what before you ask me,
go ahead.
I want to come back to Lizzie was talking about uh, the pastor who sits down and asks questions and help me understand why you think this is this is important to you, meaning that the pastor come and pray, the pastor be present. And when I talk about uh, basically doing the hard thing, that's one of the hard things, to actually know that there's a conversation that needs to be had, and be willing to follow that up and be the one to have that uncomfortable conversation, that conversation that you may discover something you don't want to discover,
Mm.
but it's important for the life of the church and in that particular individual's life to move forward. So now, having said that, all right, now John.
Uh, so again, we're talking about kind of bringing this idea of the culture of the church and this pastor-driven sense of kind of responsibility, or that's just what they want to do, kind of bringing those together so we can kind of tear them apart. And I don't know if tearing them apart is the right analogy, but so that we can come out better on the other side. What would you want somebody in your congregation, Tom, to feel empowered to do without feeling like they needed your permission or they had to be on a certain committee? Like, what would you want them to feel empowered to do?
Well, I mean, the simplest thing is, when someone is in need, and you, not the pastor, not the congregation, you are aware of that need, and then to 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 feel encouraged and empowered to actually step in that, what you see, kind of, if you see something, say something, kind of attitude of, I don't wait for somebody else to see the same thing I see, this need, but to step in, to be the person in the gap between the church and the person in need, that you bridge those two together, to be the ambassador. If you need to pray, and some people feel very uncomfortable with out loud prayer, and I recognize that. Uh, but to say, I'm not going to pray out loud, but I'm going to pray for you, you know, or to bring, somebody needs something, and it's something you can afford to bring it. Don't wait to run it through the board and see if we can do this. It's basically take an action that you already know needs to be taken.
That sounds like robots, the movie Robots. See a need, feel a need, right? Is that what you're saying, Tom?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what the robots
Ah,
reference is, but
Tom, Tom, go watch Robots tonight, Tom. You'll be glad you did. So, um, yeah, Lizzie, what would you want somebody to feel empowered to do?
Um,
You just say ditto if you want, but
yeah.
it would be affirming to me. But
I I do think there's some, I will say, I don't want to immediately push. It's not a all-inclusive pushback on see something, do something kind of, but it is because I think sometimes, to your point, Tom, that not everyone's comfortable with all the things, sometimes people, gosh, I can't believe this. And yet I also am like, wait a minute, I'm a recovering people pleaser. Yes, I absolutely can't believe this.
hmm,
I've visited people before who are like, Pastor, I'm really sorry, but somebody brought over XYZ and we just don't like it, but I don't know what to do. And, we don't have any room in the fridge for anything else, as I'm bringing the next thing somebody gave me to bring or whatever. And, the idea that I, as the pastor, am the one having to reassure them, like, you can throw that out and it's okay that you didn't eat the whole thing of what someone brought over to you that you didn't
yeah.
want, right? But so so sometimes I do think people, in the same way that like, and maybe this comes in part from having done a lot of like doing the ministry I'm doing now, having to do some disaster relief stuff too. Sometimes we do as church people make the mistake of we know what's best for somebody else. And so we take action on that before we've actually asked if that's what they need, right? And so I want there to be a bias toward action for sure. So I don't want to rain on that parade at all. And I want to bias toward empowerment too, using the language John said. But I'm not answering his question. I'm instead just reacting, and I'm sorry
Sure.
about that. But I
No,
do
that's
think
fine.
I think that's where building something robust that also just thinks bigger than it's like I don't want it to have to always go through committee, whatever, but when people have shared the gifts and when they can use it and somebody can call you because they've heard now, oh, so and so said this is going on with that person. They're about to get a fine for their yard growing too tall because they're recovering from hip surgery or whatever it is, or they just don't get around the same anymore. How can we make sure we're going over and mowing their house? Well, we already know who said they got a mower on hand. This is where you come up with like a care team model. So
Right.
I do want to say, sorry, I do want to follow up on something I said about, like kind of telling on myself. I think where I have taken the kind of like ambassador and specialness role of a pastor too far is when I know someone kind of doesn't like me because they've been real clear about it. I don't know if you've ever had that situation in a pastoring role,
Um,
but
maybe next episode, 'cause
I mean, I've had people where there is just no doubt. This is not about me being in my head. This is not about me. This part isn't. I know they don't like me. They don't want me there as their pastor. They may have even been clear. They've been one of the ones advocating to get me out, right? I have struggled before, and here's where I do get in my head, and this is just wrong, is I have thought, well, they're not going to want me there at when they've woken up from their surgery. They're not going to be happy to see me. And the mistake I've made is they deserve a visit from their pastor. And at that moment in need, they can still think and someone can say, "We're glad you came. Go ahead and leave." Right? I don't need to stay an hour and a half. By the way, don't stay an hour and a half in someone's room anyway. You're exhausting them
no
if they're in a
kidding.
hospital. But, you know, I made the mistake too many times because there have been that many people who didn't like me. No, just it does still weigh on me the times where I have not shown up when I should have as quickly as I should have. And then a couple of times, maybe if at all, because I thought they're not going to want me there.
Yeah,
And that may be true about me as a person, but they do want their pastor there at some point and they want to know their pastor paid attention. And they do deserve that. And that's a mistake I've made that balances this out, where there is something about the pastor's role and some form of pastoral care. Um, but the idea that all congregational care is actually pastoral care, it's more like squares and rectangles, right? Like, I'm going to
yeah,
get that wrong, but it's like pastoral care is part of congregational care. But the idea that all congregational care is in the pastor's hands is a mistake, right?
that's helpful. Yeah. So just
Yeah.
in the last couple minutes, I had if
Sorry.
five
So,
members if
I,
five
I,
members visited somebody, Tom, but not the pastor, was that person cared for? And if one pastor visited but no one else, was that person cared for?
Ooh,
well,
this is
and the
like a fun
answer to
math
that is
problem.
yes. No, it's well in both cases, it's care showed up. So one is pastoral care and congregational care, and the other is congregational care. But the answer, the simple answer is when someone's cared for, it is care. But I think Lizzie touched on something that I've been reading this book and I can't even remember. I think it's called Managing Anxiety, yours and theirs, talking
Mm,
about as a pastor and the people you minister to. But he was taught, he was serving as a chat in the chaplaincy early on. I don't remember if it was a multi-year uh, part of his education or not. What I do remember is, he in this process as a chaplain, he would often be called into a crisis situation within the hospital, and he was saying, his first prayer was, Lord, please let it not be someone I know. It's not a loved one. No, there's been a car accident on
Sure.
286, and I don't want to walk in and find out it's my wife. That kind of thing. And and then the other thing that he talked about that is learning to be quiet instead of having those automatic prayers, which centered about him, just to be quiet and allow that moment of thought, that gathering of awareness of what's going on, and then allowing God to speak through, listen to the Spirit of God closely enough to know when to speak and when to remain silent. And so,
Sure.
Lizzie, when you said that, I'm going, yeah, that's one. It isn't as clear as see something, say something, or do something. Sometimes it's a matter of saying we have a process in hand. We have developed within the church this sense of congregational care, and I'm not the one who should be going into this situation, but I do know who should. So I think that touches really strongly on what we, yeah, again, what I think we agree on is developing this sense that it is the body of Christ, the community of faith, that is so concerned about actually living into love one another, that we recognize it's not all on the pastor's shoulders. It is on
Yeah.
our shoulders as a congregation.
So, Lizzie, let me give you the final word, last couple of minutes. What's the sort of one takeaway to give to somebody listening in the church about why this matters to them and to their church? How would you kind of give that to them quickly?
I would quickly, what? Okay, I would say imagine, and I feel weird saying this to the people who are on the call with me, and knowing there are people who hear this, who are listening, for whom this is not just an imaginary scenario, right? This has been experienced. Imagine you get a diagnosis that means you're going to be wiped out for whatever treatment, whatever surgery, whatever recovery, something like that. You get a diagnosis, and the answer is you're not going to be doing all the things you were doing before all the time, right? And now imagine there you are, in consternation and turmoil about this, both your identity and who you are, because you're used to being the doer, the provider, the whatever, and you've talked to your pastor about it because of that aspect of it, and because you also are scared about this diagnosis, right? And how it's going to affect your kids, how it's going to affect you being able to care for your parents, whatever the other dynamics are involved. You still got to keep your job going. You don't know how you're going to do you're not going to be able to teach the Bible study because you're not going to be able to follow up. You got to just get your job done now or whatever, right? So you come to the pastor to talk about something like that. That is an important conversation that would happen with a pastor, right? Or as we've said, maybe it happens with someone. This is kind of the see something, say something. It happens with someone you trust, and they do think this is the sort of thing to be like, hey, pastor, I think you might want to give so and so a call and check in on them about what's going on without disclosing more than the person gave you permission to, right? Now imagine that your church, I mean, once again, I mentioned mowing the lawn, right? You don't want me coming to mow your lawn. And that's not just like literally you just don't want me. But you might not want any of your pastors to come mow your lawn. It just depends, right?
I do
But
pretty good.
imagine that it's not just that food shows up, because that's what we always think of, right? And that's a way
Right.
we care. And I think that's great in scriptural meals, and feeding one another happens literally and figuratively together a
Sure.
lot. However, what if the joy that you have is the meals you make with your family? You've been teaching your child how to cook. You don't want to give away the recipes that are the important things, or you have special needs for your food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not really the thing for people to do. So instead, there's already a system in place, and everyone's already shared their gifts they're willing to share, such that a care team can go into action and make sure that your laundry's getting done, your lawn's getting mowed, and you get to cook whatever food you want because the groceries were dropped off. I mean, in this day and age, that's a lot easier too than it used to be to just order your groceries and someone else can pick them up, bring them over,
Sure.
right? Your groceries got dropped off, so you can still cook the meals you love cooking because cooking is something you love to do. Instead of us presuming, let's bring you over cream of mushroom, something that I can tell you I've choked down as a preacher's kid, but I do not want to eat if I don't have to. I'll eat it in front of you if I have to, but I'm not going to eat it behind your back if I don't have to. Um, Instead of us bringing all the meals, taking away something else that brings you joy, by the
Yeah.
way. But imagine you are in that scenario and there's already a system in place because, again, the church has said, and I just think of how many people who think I am scared. Like Tom said, I'm scared to pray in front of other people, so I don't know that I could be on the care team. Or if the only care extension in your church is a prayer team, and you think that's just not what does that mean to be on the prayer team? What do I, do they get together? Do they not? Anyway, but to be like, oh, you know what gift I've seen in you is this, or that person has already offered up, but I can tell you what I can do, you know? Um, Man, I mean, this gets into wider things of what if your congregational care meant that there's like during tax season help from the people who are former accountants, current accountants to just kind of get some of the stuff lined up, in case people haven't had access. I mean, that doesn't sound like immediate care for the sick kind of congregational care we talk about. But when people can offer up, this is my gift. I mow lawns, and I did every summer as a kid. And I love riding my lawnmower over to somebody's house in our small town or whatever it is, right? Like that is a gift that is needed for people who need care, long-term support. And it is, again, one more way that this witness to like you are not alone, right? I mean
Mm.
that's the ultimate thing that I think a pastor's presence is meant to convey. You're not alone, God is with you. The reality is my experience, and I will say this does come from being a preacher's kid. The time where the people have shown up for my family, where I mean, I guess I shouldn't have been shocked because I should think of it as like, well, these people all feel like my parents are involved in their life, right? But like my greatest example, I used it in every essay I wrote about my call story for seminary when they asked for that, is when we moved to Austin, it was between fourth and fifth grade for me. As if we'd always had friends help us move. It also always rained. It's June, whatever. This was the first time we pulled up to the house, which for one thing, this is the first time we had like a house we were buying instead of a parsonage. So that impresses me even more because it wasn't the church's house. We pulled up to the house we were moving into, and there were 30 people, 50 people in the driveway waiting to help haul all the stuff in, waiting to help get things into boxes, having a meal in our fridge for us ready to go, and a big sign. And I mean, I write about how that was an experience of prevenient grace because I also knew that congregation loved the pastors who were leaving, who had also been there for 10 years or more. They loved them. And so the idea that they were all showing up to welcome these new people they don't know at all. I mean, what an experience of prevenient grace
No.
that has stayed with me for 40 years, right? Well, I guess I was 10, so 30 years. Um, but it has shaped me and it has shaped my call story, even an understanding of how, I mean, Brian Bales but couldn't be seen over the beanbag chair he was carrying in, right? Because it was like 5-year-olds to 85-year-olds in that yard doing one thing or another to welcome us. And you know, I don't know that we think of that as a ministry for everyone in the church because we're not always tracking when people are moving in or moving out. But like, my gosh, I can't tell you what that meant to my family
Different kind of
still.
care.
It was huge care for us
Yeah.
at the time, and it was a witness to the grace of God that is so much more than you are not alone because I'm here with you, but like you were not alone. Did you realize those ladies were praying for you while they made that
Yeah.
quilt, while they
Amen.
this, while on, on and on. And so I just think of the gift that would be. I know your question was like, what would you say to, but just think of the gift that would be. Also, think of the gift you've needed that it was like if someone could have helped with this in this time, that would have made all the difference. And my guess is it's not necessarily your pastor who would have been the one who could have done it best, right?
Yeah.
But I also bet there's someone in the church who was equipped to do that well for you. And I just think it's the pastor's job in part to be helping build up these networks and an understanding of the deep relationship we have with one another to get that care going. We can have those conversations. We can lift up the gifts. We can say, I've seen how you do that. Would you be willing to share that with someone sometime? That's our job for sure. And hopefully equipping other people to be that are the kind of people who can see those gifts in others too. But I'm just saying, imagine care in a crisis that really gives you that witness of grace that's far more than one pastor can do sitting in a room with you.
And the word you just used was what I was going to kind of land on is, you're giving people um, giving them the call to imagine, like imagine how care can be extended and what we kind of typically box it in to mean. So
Yeah.
good job, guys. That's good conversations. I hope you all hear that with love and joy for the ministry that we all share together. So go get imaginative and go build your statues if that's your gift, if that's how you care. Go pay somebody's parking ticket if that's a
Oh
way
my
of
gosh.
care, right? So anyway,
You just got to spiritualize those silly beginning moments.
that's what we do. We got to
And
bring it all
also
together, Tom.
pray for somebody. You don't have to have special magic words or a degree. Pray for
That's right.
somebody, whatever words you have, or even just holding them on your mind while you breathe and think about God. That counts,
Amen.
right?
Amen to that. Well, Tom, Lizzie, thank you for the gift of your time. Good stuff as always. I appreciate it. Lizzie, anytime you want to come on, you got the link, so you know where to be. And
Wait till
we
your
look forward
listeners
to
say that, okay, though? Don't extend that till you've had feedback.
it. It's all good. And thank you all for listening, for watching, however you're getting an almost perfect Christian podcast. Have a good rest of the week, and God be with you. I'm in a Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay.
In other words, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Don't mess with me. Leave me alone.